I've seen many school comedy-based shows, and there was something about this one from the trailer that I watched prior to this episode dropping that gave me the impression that it might be one of the more refreshing comedy school-based anime, given the almost like wholesome yet almost like mildly violent humor that we might experience. And even though the thumbnail does represent what was in this episode, it's also not as stressful as I think you would think at some of these moments, right? Her headbutting our boy here, and also just the idea of him looking like he's about to tear his hair out. That's more due to the fact that there's just a lack of communication because our main female character here, Aharen, is basically, she doesn't have spatial awareness. So when she's talking, someone sitting next to you in class, you can't hear her. If she's right up against your ear, you might be able to make out certain words. And the idea of lacking the ability to understand personal space, so once she thinks people like her, it's very much clingy, kind of like in your face, you can't let go, and I'm going to force food in your mouth, or I'm going to shove my entire bento box in your face because you look like you're hungry. And the idea that you have this very mild, it's not monotone, it's not overdramatic, but just a very chill voice actor for our main character, Rido, in terms of the male side here, and how he's doing his damnedest to change his school life. They kick it off in a pretty typical way. He never really fit in before. I guess he has a mean face, and I guess that's what's considered a mean face. Looks pretty average, pretty normal. He's a bit on the taller side. And he's just trying to make friends with the person who's sitting next to him, who just so happens to be this almost socially awkward girl. And I love the idea how he doesn't back down. He comes up with these ludicrous ideas of how to communicate with her, whether it's telepathy, whether it's shooting arrows, whether it's all these random things. And I love seeing when they actually try to commit to something, they just go so overboard in the right wholesome-like way. There's nothing actually stressful about this show. When they start passing notes to each other, she's someone who's very needy, who's very clingy. So passing notes, she'll just say hello, and she'll just bombard you. It doesn't matter if you're even sitting there. You see him in the locker room, you see him at a urinal, and you see the little, paper get thrown his way. And it's not like he's mad or anything, he just immediately recognizes, we need to cut this out. Or my favorite joke in this episode, which goes to show the connection that these two already have. They go to this arcade where they have all these different games, and of course you have a crane game. And it looks like she's very interested in wanting one of these plushies. So he spends every nickel, every dime he has in order to get this plushie. He fails. And then she, immediately, within 500 yen, gets a bundle of these plushies. Turns out, she thought that he wanted them, so she spent money to get him all of these, when really he was just trying to get it for her because he thought she wanted them. And then ultimately he goes home with an armful of these little creatures, they all look the same, she gets one, and when the little sister of our main character here is like, hey, can I have one of these? He's like, no, they're gifts. It's such a cute misunderstanding that's not stressful, minus the fact that maybe he can't buy lunch for the next day or two, but then they immediately even cover that because with the mother apparently going away on a business trip, she ends up making him dinner, which is why she falls asleep in class. And there's just all these little moments throughout this episode that are just so wholesomely adorable that it's hard not to love these two. When she speaks, she has a great voice actress that perfectly captures this dull moe blob appearance. And when he speaks, there's nothing arrogant about him. There's nothing infuriating about him. You just immediately root for them. It's not about, hoping they kiss or they do this or that. You're simply here to watch an almost Komi Can't Communicate communication disorder without any of the over-exaggeration in terms of drama. As if you've seen that show, there's certain characters that go so overboard, you think they deserve to be in jail. Where it almost feels like this has an almost Non Non Biyori energy with just slightly older characters with, I guess you could argue, slightly more mature comedy. She's headbutting him. She's ultimately doing some, I guess you could quote-unquote call it violent things, but it's not, really mean-spirited or anything like that. And I love the idea of, when she tries to back off because she's reflecting on how when someone was just slightly nice, probably saying hello to her, she thought they were best friends. And I think that's a cute dynamic that we don't quite see. Visually, it looks different, even though it's set in a school. The two main characters almost give me an Ori Monogatari vibe, where if you've seen that romance, a very big man and a pretty fragile, younger-looking girl. And I love the idea of kind of doing it in a moe blob doll-like persona with a just slightly bigger, honestly, he could probably play football in this world, right? And that's what I love about this, is that it's just all around a 10 out of 10 episode for what it set out to be. Make you like these two characters, and you can't quite predict exactly what type of shenanigans are going to get roped into. And with the little taste of music that we did get up with the opening, the ending, I mean, this sounds like it's going to be perfect. I mean, in terms of the actual episode, they had the typical slice of life, just little bits of sound effects and things playing, but I mean, the opening and ending are such high energy and capture the type of vibe that this show's going for, that I think if it needs some great music, I'm sure it will have it. And I think when you look at shows like Non Non Biyori, that's exactly the type of OST I expect in a show like this with the type of characters that we're experiencing. Now, when it comes to shows like these, there is the risk of the joke or the formula running its course and you just find yourself not wanting to watch more. But I don't think I'm going to experience that in 12 or 13 episodes, however long this anime is going to run for. This is one of those things that I could easily see myself watching 2 cours worth before potentially it could grow old. And given the fact that the poster image and even the trailer gives me the impression that there is going to be a decent-sized supporting cast, I imagine the personalities are going to blend and mix and match with this almost socially awkward duo who doesn't give off this weird vibe that it's going to be super dramatic all that often. Sure, future episodes could be different. Maybe it will get super emotional. Maybe it will be more mean-spirited, but you go off of what you've seen, right? Not just what could happen badly, because then you're just asking for a world of hurt. So I think with a mix of a side cast and what we've seen with the main cast here, this show is going to be refreshing every single week. Sure, maybe I won't have full video length worth reviews, and I might have shorter reviews for certain episodes, but it's something that I can see myself wanting to come up here every week and talk about because it's something that de-stresses you. You love the situational jokes like how clingy she is or the rambunctious actions that they get up into. And I just love the idea of something like this being stress-free and just being something that actually feels refreshing in the oversaturated school comedy genre with a hint of romance, will they, won't they, right? Either way, I mean, this is just awesome. I love how it is that wholesome, and I love that the production value perfectly captures the energy that clearly the source material was aiming for, right? You can just tell that they really elevated it in the proper ways with certain lightings and blushing effects. But I actually think, even though people probably won't clue into it all that much, a main male character who's not really overly enthusiastic and a female who barely speaks, the voice actors probably aren't going to get a lot of credit, but when you consider the roles that they're playing, they actually did a 10 out of 10 job for exactly what they needed to do, and that's what makes the two so rootable and likable so early on. Hopefully within the next couple of episodes, maybe they'll sprinkle in a side cast here and there, maybe a character or two. Either way, I could watch these two for at least 24 episodes before potentially growing bored, and we're not even getting 24 episodes this season, so therefore, I'm gonna like it the entire way through. I'm pretty damn confident. But thoughts, if you've seen this first episode, or if you even just plan on checking it out after this video, let me know what you're feeling down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and hey, if you're new around here, also be sure to subscribe. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.